the thing that we didn't want to happen, but maybe thought was going to happen and could happen and shouldn't happen, but probably would happen, did happen last night. And not only did the Kings lose to the Golden State Warriors, they got destroyed. And it was pretty embarrassing, from Steph Curry scoring an anemic 11 points, but getting the 4,000 threes to him also making fun of the Kings defense to the point where he pointed where Keegan Murray should have been or where somebody should have been with a Jonathan Kuminga back cut. And by the way, the Jonathan Kuminga thing, yeah, he looked pretty darn good. That was not a problem. It turns out the Kings are very good against athletic wings on top of teams that can shoot threes. And the Warriors shot the three at a 56.4% clip. And it was disheartening. And that's probably putting it lightly. Jimmy Butler had 6 points. And like I said, Steph Curry had 11. And the same kind of defense we've seen from the Kings before, where it's let everybody else beat us. Jonas Valanciunas, not to pick on him, but I know that Draymond shoots like he has a backpack on and it doesn't really look like it's going in. But that very first play that the Warriors had the basketball, the very first play, if you go back and watch that play during a break, Jonas Valanciunas is set to go out. And look, he's a showman, and I appreciate that. Is set to go out to defend Draymond Green at the three-point line in the corner, which is the easiest three, and they were giving up a bunch of corner threes all day long. Jonas Valanciunas gives the slightest little hand wave as if to say, I'm not bothering to guard Draymond Green out there. Now, there's certain players that will crack them, right? That will break them. Draymond Green is not one of them. And look, that guy who got surgery on his pinky, the mad De'Aaron Fox, that's the joke I always had. You make a lot of these players mad and they play much better. And Draymond Green took that personally to the tune of 23 points. And we can sit here and say, oh, well, if Draymond's going to score 20, we've done that before. Oh, well, if Josh Hart's going to, we continue to do this. There is an inherent problem with this Kings team and with the makeup of the roster. There's no other way to put it. We can talk about starting Keon Ellis and whether that gets you to the 8 seed or not. I honestly don't think it does. You might be starting Keon Ellis at this point to hold on to the 9 seed. How about that? And nothing has changed from yesterday. I think especially when you do a show every day and there are a lot of thoughts coming at you, a lot of people in general, and specifically in this type of industry, get accused of flip-flopping and changing how they feel based on game to game. Well, you have to react game to game, and that's what's going to happen. But going into this week, I would say we've kind of been on the train of, hey, this team is going to be a 9 seed, and at this point, 10 is possible the way things are going. And let's just hope that they're able to figure it out on the way. And I don't feel any differently about that than I did yesterday. It would have been nice to beat the Warriors, and I guess there would have been a glimmer of hope for the 8 seed, but this really doesn't kick off things the right way. Now, look, I said yesterday that they're not winning both these games between today and yesterday with the Suns and the Warriors. So it's very possible they beat the Suns tonight and get back on track. To me, it's less about the physical nature of the game and the X's and O's and more about where are they mentally. Something that I've been seeing floating around kind of Kings fan spaces is that Clippers game may have just broken them. And that is what it feels like right now. The Nuggets game, that was one thing. A lot of people were talking about the fouls, things like that. And it's the Nuggets. But the Clippers game, someone right in your area, someone that is hindering your ability to get to that 8 seed, losing that Clipper game when you had no business losing that game, that very well may have broken this Kings team. A Kings team that didn't really have that high of a ceiling anyway, if we're being honest. And we're at the point now where everyone is upset. The expectations going into the season weren't even that high, and you're still not going to be close. The only reason I'm going to put blame on the players is because whenever you get paid millions of dollars, you're going to be expected to perform. but these circumstances were never, ever conducive to winning, right? We can all agree about that. But where I put blame on the players is there is no excuse for the lack of effort that we've been seeing. Like I said, my wife made a beautiful, beautiful dinner last night. We were all hyped up for the game, and I almost lost it watching that play where the Kings had some bad luck, and they threw the ball around. The Warriors did. It almost went out of bounds, and it ended up being good luck for the Warriors. Jonathan Kuminga got downhill as he did time and time again. They get a layup on that play. Very next play, Zach LaVine gets caught on Moody Island. Zach LaVine, I think the ball was going to be out on, I think it was Buddy Hield Island. And both of those guys were around. Zach LaVine kicks the ball. He thinks it's about to go out of bounds, and Buddy Hield, as Zach LaVine, $45 million a year, too cool for school to run after the basketball. Buddy Hield hustles to the ball, gets it. The Warriors get a bucket. That type of stuff is not on Vivek Ranadive, is not on Monty McNair, is not on Wes Wilcox, and is not on Doug Christie. So we can separate some of this stuff to where, yes, you have been put in a tough spot. But damn it, there comes a time and place where you need to have some pride. And nobody can teach you that pride. You know, you don't want to hustle and dive on the ground when you're the highest paid player on the team. And I'm not picking on Zach LaVine. He only took 6 shots, by the way. So maybe I'd be more willing to excuse this if he had gone off for 40. Because I'm that type of guy. I'll front run. I don't care. But you've taken 6 shots. At that time, it probably wasn't even 6. You play soccer with the basketball as if you're Ronaldinho, and you get out-hustled by Buddy Hield because you think the ball is going out of bounds. That play, to me, made me ask the question, where is this team? You have guys throwing up their hands on defense, okay? Nobody knows where they're supposed to be. It honestly looked like amateur hour. And look, if you are a Kings fan, that play-in, you can look at this a couple ways last season. You can look at this and say, oh, man, we victory lapped and look at us now. I don't even look at it like that. Kings fans have been through enough. I'm glad you enjoyed that play-in last season. I'm glad that there were nights happening on the court because you never know what's going to happen next with this team, with this organization. So enjoy whatever tiny victories you can. Last night actually made me feel better about how Kings fans acted after the play-in. Because that could be the hype. That could. You got the T-shirts. It's a play-in game. It was rocking in there. This is where we're at. And y'all know I don't like to pull punches, but I also don't want to take things too far. But ultimately, the issue with this Kings organization is pretty simple. They try to cut corners. We all have friends that, when you played a different sport, hey, we're supposed to do 10 push-ups, but I'm good after 8, right? In class, hey, well, I don't feel like reading that book, so I'm going to go to SparkNotes. I'm going to Google it. I'm going to let AI tell me. That's what this Kings team tried to do. They tried to cut corners. This stuff takes time. It takes patience. It takes understanding. Now, everything is relative, right? But how many years, again, relatively speaking, how many years did the Celtics get beat up time and time again? Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. Blow it up. Separate them. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. They said, you know what? We think it can work. We just have to figure out some different things. And ultimately it did. I know, relatively speaking. The Milwaukee Bucks, over and over again, Giannis became the best player in the world. Over and over again. Not going to work. Got to blow it. Is Giannis going to go somewhere else? Takes patience. The Warriors. It's a jump shooting team. Monte Ellis. Can't move off of him. This kid, Steph Curry, bad ankles. How long is he going to play? He turns 37 today, by the way. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Now let's look at the teams that have tried to cut corners and how things have turned out for them. Both big three iterations of the Nets. The first iteration with Kevin Garnett and the crew, that didn't work. The second iteration with Kyrie, James Harden, Kevin Durant, that didn't work. The Suns, who, by the way, still, and these are bigger names than what the Sacramento Kings have ever cooked up. That's why it's all relatively speaking. Don't get me wrong. The Suns tried to cut corners. Now, they initially did do it the right way. They get to the finals, lose to those same Milwaukee Bucks, and then they get a taste of it, and they move away from the process, right? Now it's time to cut corners. Give me Kevin Durant. Oh, well, nobody wants Bradley Beal. One of the worst contracts, probably the only contract off the top of my head that is viewed as worse than Zach LaVine and has been viewed as worse than Zach LaVine. Yeah, but maybe we could get him for a little bit here, and we got a big three. We want to keep this thing going. Suns in 4. Tried to cut corners. Look where they're at now. Actually worse than the Sacramento Kings. Who knows what's going to happen tonight, though? The Los Angeles Clippers. Lob City did it the right way. Didn't get there. Did it the right way. Blake Griffin, CP3, the crew. We know there were some issues there off the basketball court, to put it lightly.
They also had some good luck in getting the number 1 pick that became Blake Griffin.
It's all part of the process. It's all part of the process. What do they do next go round? They try to cut corners. Okay? They try to cut corners. We got Kawhi. We got Paul George. Steve Ballmer is doing funny dance moves. Isn't this great? Nothing to show for it. So if those teams who cut corners with actual legitimate Hall of Fame talent can't get it done, again, all relatively speaking, don't get me wrong, but a lot of them didn't even come close to what their goals were. If those teams weren't able to figure it out, duct taping and gorilla gluing a team together because you couldn't handle a 5-game losing streak. You couldn't handle someone saying, well, I think that we need to be better, and I don't even know that you can necessarily build around me. Let's go get a wing. Unable to take a second and to be frantic and to be hasty and to make rash decisions. I'm not saying to not move off of Mike Brown, period. And I'm not saying not to move off of Mike Brown at the end of the season, but to make rash decisions with no plan when your initial team, when they moved off of in Milwaukee last season, when they fired that coach, they had championship aspirations. David Black, championship aspirations. You're firing someone when you were slotted to be a 6 seed and lose in the second round. It doesn't matter whether I think it should have happened or not. The process has always been, we are going to cut corners. And if nothing else, at the end of this season, if nothing else, this should serve as a learning experience to this organization. The hope is that. That is the one positive we can take away. It's not about on the court anymore. I don't care if you go to the playoffs or not. What have you learned from this season? Everybody needs an exit interview. Everybody in the organization. What have you learned? Are you going to continue doing the same thing? Because we know what the definition of insanity is. On the other side, we break down the shellacking that happened last night as the Warriors just rained from three-point land, and the Kings did the same thing they did the last 2 games, which ultimately did not end in success. Alan Stiles, Sactown Sports.
Time to check out Capital Casino.